Okay, nako, magandang gabi ho sa inyong lahat. It's a Tuesday evening at ayan na naman, meron na ho na naman tayong very special segment or program dito ho sa ating station, no? Dito po sa Pinoy Radio UK and Pinoy Radio UK TV. Siyempre, it's Tuesday night, kasama na natin yung pinakamamahal nating abogada, no? Siyempre, walang iba kundi si Attorney Danna Quinto. Good evening, Attorney.
Good evening, Mr. Laragan. Medyo naguluhan tayo sa time zone. Nandito tayo sa UK time zone. Good evening to you. Good evening, Europe. Good evening, August, who I saw earlier. Hello, August, and hello to everyone. And here we are again.
Yes, and of course, binanggit mo si August. Pabatiin natin siyempre.
Oh. You, August. Yes. Fierce.
All right. Asan ka, August? Nawala ang iyong audio. Ito, sorry. Ayan. Okay.
Ayan.
Yes.
Ayan, sir. Good evening, attorney. Good evening, Sir Sunny. Good evening sa lahat ng mga nanonood ngayon sa Sunny Laragan Show.
Ay, hindi, Sunny Laragan. Nagkakaiba. Naninibago tayo. The Legal Advice Corner.
The Legal Advice with Attorney Danna. Yes.
Yes.
Isang maulang Tuesday sa inyong lahat. And of course, sa lahat ng mga nanonood dito sa Belgium, good evening. Stay tuned po kayo at magandang aming pag-uusapan after the Legal Advice Corner with Attorney Danna.
Yes, but in the meantime, ito ho yung ating program. Dagdag kaalaman ho para sa ating mga kababayan. Kayo ho, kung meron ho kayong mga problema, no? Sa mga tinatalakay ho ni Attorney, ito yung mga bagay-bagay na nagbibigay sa atin ng we get empowered, ika nga. Dahil maski paano, dito ho tayo, nasa UK, at hindi natin masyadong kabisado mga batas. By way of this program na ho to, hindi ho segment to, program na ho. Ayan. Pero bago muna ang lahat, August, gusto ko lang i-congratulate ipakita rito yung merong tayong lumabas na yung ating newspaper, no? At andito si Attorney Danna. Ayan, sandali, hanapin ko lang ha.
Wow, congratulations, Attorney.
Ito yung bagong newspaper natin ng Yes Philippines. Ayan. Tapos, pangit yata yung ating ilaw, no? Andito ngayon si Attorney. Ayan. Ayan, meron siyang, tingnan natin. Nakikita niyo ba yan?
Meron siyang yes, sa baba.
Sa baba pala. Ayan. Ayan, oo. Ano pa mga ito ng article? Ang kanyang article is Clarifying Misconceptions in Children Act Proceedings. Ito yan. Ayan. Maganda. Ito yung picture niya. Nakikita niyo sa pinapost natin sa no? Ayan na. Di ba, makikita ko lang niyo. Gusto lang natin i-anunsyo na nasa labas na ho to, makakukuha ho ninyo sa mga abangan ho ninyo sa mga paborito niyo mga tindahan Pilipino, no? Sa Embassy at sa Earl's Court. Ayan. Hindi ko lang ma-print na bigla. Ayun. Okay. So, Clarifying Misconceptions in Children Act Proceedings. Ayan. Anyway, bongga yan ha. August ha.
So, buti sa attorney nasa newspaper na. Pero nakarang araw, sir, kwento ko lang. Nakuha din ako sa television.
Aba?
Wow!
Yeah!
Hindi nagpapatalo. Oo. Kinuha ka ng ano? Ano ginawa mo?
May program kasi dito sa TV dito, sir, VTM ang pangalan ng TV program. Meron silang program na Make Belgium Great Again. So parang naglalakad lang ako doon, tapos tinanong ako, sir, can we shoot you? Just look at the tarpaulin. Malaking tarpaulin na parang may number doon na kasabing, call this number to make Belgium great again. So, parang gano'n.
Okay. Good.
Parang kaneyo lang, pero kahit na.
Pero I'm very proud na ikaw, August, no? Nandiyan ka sa Belgium at kumbaga, celebrity ka na rin ng konti dahil nakita ka sa TV. At si attorney naman dito, nagko-column siya rito sa ating Yes Philippines, the only true local Filipino community newspaper from cover to cover. Ayan. Pwede natin cover si Attorney Danna next month, ha? The youngest, di ba? Head of litigation.
Yeah.
Pwede. Kasi ang diary na ito, para sa mga Pilipino rito who are excelling. So, ayan, si Attorney pwede natin cover. Tama, ayan, napakinggan ng mga viewers natin. Okay, Attorney, ano pag-uusapan for tonight? What will you be discussing for tonight?
Right, I'm gonna go right into it. First of all, thank you, nakakataba ng puso. It's always a pleasure to be here. We're here to empower, and sabi nga nila, knowledge is power. So we're here to add information sa mga kababayan natin na talagang mainit ngayong panahon. When I wrote that column about clarifying Children Act proceedings, mainit yan because of the coronavirus situation. Ngayon nag-i-ease na yung lockdown measures when we're all trying to go back to new normals, ika nga ng cover page mo. Nararamdaman na natin yung economic effect of what happened in the last 3 months. And ano yung parati natin nakikita sa news ngayon? We're all hearing about companies closing down. We're hearing about malalaking kumpanya. We heard about either companies, branches nila, a lot of branches closing down. So maraming sort of may mga kumakatok na parang economic recession happening. And with the recession, what comes with that is mga nalilay off sa term natin sa Pilipinas. Here, they call it redundancy. So, we're going to speak today about one of the agreements na parating nakikita ko from my career so far. So 6 years qualified na ako tomorrow. So from my career so far, I started in the recession, and I've gone through, medyo yung after ng boom na recession. Then you see this, may markers yung ekonomiya natin. One of the markers na medyo hindi ganun kaganda yung ekonomiya is madaming kumakatok for settlement agreement or golden goodbye sa employment or employer-employee relationship nila. What is it really? What's a settlement agreement? It's when you can use it anytime na para i-terminate yung relationship nyo between an employer and employee without going through yung rule. We talked about kung gaano kalakas yung pagprotekta dito ng employee relationship. So, in order to skip that rigmarole, kasi for reasons, management time, saving resources, etc., and talagang kailangan na ng kumpanya to act accordingly, they would produce this settlement agreement. Kumbaga, compromise na tayo. Ito na yung financial package mo. But in exchange of that, you have to give up all your rights against the company. So that's what they used to call it a compromise agreement. In the last few years, we started calling it a settlement agreement. And ganyan na yung kumbaga standard na tawag sa kanya. There are a few things, 5 or 6 actually, 6 clauses, 6 terms na talagang tinitingnan namin or kailangan malaman ng mga kababayan natin, things to look out for when in the unfortunate incident na nandun ka in a position to have to consider a settlement agreement. So that can happen anytime kung may grievance, kung may performance issue, kung redundancy, economic recession. So you can at any time in your life have to be in that position. So the first to note, I said this, it's a full and final settlement. They call it, it's the end of the relationship. You cannot go back later on and ask for more. You cannot go to the employment tribunal because you discovered, yung isang kababayan, she got more. So I want to go back and ask for more. No, you can't do that. It's full and final settlement, except for a few things. Very, very narrow exception. 2 things that's an exception talaga is, number 1 is kung may personal injury ka na hindi mo alam at that particular time, and then years later, discover, and so that's hindi kasama sa settlement agreement. And number 2 is yung pag-accrue ng pension rights mo. So if may mali na calculation pension, you can still go back because that's it. Other than that, kung may niraise ka sa kanila, I have a carpal tunnel syndrome. Kung alam nila you raised it, kasama yon sa full and final settlement ng agreement. So some said, malaki yun, you will see it across the settlement agreements, normally 5, 6 to 10 pages. You will see it's full and final, it's full and final, it's full and final. Second, and probably most important, one of the most important terms of settlement is the payment calculation. So meron doon very early on, probably page, you will see kung ano yung redundancy payment mo, ano yung payment in lieu of notice mo. So dapat kailangan bigyan ka ng notice na 3 months. So sabi nila, oh, we'll have to terminate your contract next week. So here's the calculation. So you look at those, and also ex gratia payment kung merong kumbaga out of goodwill na payment. So you look at those particular subheadings, including unpaid holidays. So just take note, unpaid holidays, payment in lieu of notice, redundancy calculation, if applicable, and kung may ex gratia payment man, then have a look at it. Kung yun talaga yung na-agreehan nyo between two parties. Now, it's 30,000 below. The package is tax-free. Anything above that, I always say go to an accountant because I don't give tax advice, and most lawyers try not to do the tax advice because it's a very different skill set. So one thing to note, 30,000 package below, 30,000 above rather, may tax implication siya over and beyond no normal na NI. National insurance contribution. So just something to note. Number 3, you will see it in most, if not all, settlement agreement is a confidentiality clause. So ilalagay doon, depende sa terms, may complete confidentiality clause that you can't even talk about the dispute. After that, you can't talk about the existence of the agreement. Meron naman iba na, okay, you can't talk to them about how much, but you can talk to them, you can disclose na may settlement agreement. So just be very careful, read it properly. Most of the settlement agreement now allows you to tell your spouse or your partner. So in reality, ang totoo niyan is kailangan natin i-share sa family natin. So that's actually allowed. So that's something to note of. Number 4, settlement agreement normally requires a lawyer to walk you through it, to give you independent legal advice on the provisions of it. And that's the reason I'm sort of giving you the generic advice kung ano yung sinasabi ko sa mga clients who's coming to me and say, oh, paano to, paki-explain naman yung settlement agreement na to. So they would actually pay. They have a budget, may clause doon, hanapin nyo. They have for you to get independent legal advice somewhere. And most of the law like that, pupunta dun sa kumpanya. So something to note of, may legal cost budget yung mga settlement agreement na yan. Number 5, one of the things, so when they say, so tatanong sa akin, Danna, would you like to have a look at the settlement agreement and sabihin mo sa akin kung fair naman yung terms nito. One of the things that I also look at, hindi lang yung settlement agreement. So before you come to me, always say, please, can I have your employment contract? Can I have a copy? Magpipit stop ako ng review ng employment contract mo. So it's also worth looking at your emails, inbox, kung ano ba employment contract mo. If not, go ask your HR. Because what I'm looking for is kung ano yung obligasyon na you agreed with the employer from the start, from day one. And some of those obligations include obligations that would still carry on after the termination of employment. Ano yun? One of the examples is a non-compete clause. So restraint of trade clause, you can also call it restraint of trade. So, for example, you're not allowed to work for a company or a competitor within 10 miles of where your office were, or 15 miles, or 50 miles, or 100 miles. So I'm looking for those things that might restrict your employability na hindi mo nabasa, say, about 10 years ago. And for me, that's the time to tidy it up. That's the time to say, hang on a minute, that's very, very unfair, or that's going to unfairly restrict my employability. Either two things, either you pay me, or most of those restraint of trade clause have a time element to them. So either 6 months, bawal ka magtrabaho within an area, 1 year, 2 years. If they are so unfair, the court can say they're not valid, but again, we're here to prevent rather than cure. So that's my cue to say, why don't we tidy this all up now? Well, if you want my client to really not work for 6 months, pay him or her. Or if you do not want that, then take off the restraint of trade clause. So the reason why Just you come to me and I say, kailangan employment contract mo, that's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for ways to make sure na pagkatapos ng settlement agreement, you're as employed as possible. So that's employment contract. Now, this is sort of a bonus point. I think sa atin, back home, we give reference quite freely. Or yung para ko, he's very, very good. We give flowery reference na about people that we work with. In the UK, and much more recently, references are normally just factual references. So this person worked at this firm from this date to this date with the role of this date. It sounds a bit cold, but because that's the standard these days. So hindi walang negative inference if ever yun lang yung ibigay sa'yo. Again, it would be good to ask for a copy, an advance copy of a reference if ever you want one. So most of the settlement agreement, or not most, but it is possible na naka-attach na dun yung reference mo para hindi mo na problemahin kung anong makukuha mo, say 3 months down the line, that you have an employment offer waiting and you come back to them and say, can I have a reference, please? So those are the things that you have to look for, that I have to look for if I have to give you independent legal advice on settlement agreement.
Okay, August. Ayan, oo.
Ayan,
Anong
yes
title?
po, yan.
Anong title natin ulit dito sa topic na to, attorney? Anong sabi mo? Anong title natin?
It's called settlement agreement. So clauses or settlement agreement po. Terms to look at.
Settlement agreements. So, okay.
Employment contract. So really, it's terms to look out for. Yung, kumbaga, titingnan mo talaga. San mo, makikita mo 10 pages yan. Ano yung talagang titingnan mo? 6 na clauses yung talagang titingnan mo. Na hanapin mo. Para, for me as well, that's for me to look at. But I'm trying to impart. So before ka papunta ng abogado, at least alam mo na kung ano yung tatanong mo. Tatanong mo, reference ko. Asa na may non-compete ba ako? Magkano yung ibabayad niyo sa abogado na and confirm that they're responsible for paying the lawyer to give you advice. Look at the confidentiality agreement. Baka naman kahit sa asawa mo, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin. That's going to be a problem. Kasi pag nag-change ka ng, we're talking about, you're going to talk about jealousy earlier, or later rather, aren't you? So, these are things, practical things to put you in as best position as possible, given what could be quite a stressful situation. So, things to look out for: payment, full and final settlement. May injury ka ba na nasabi mo sa kanila? So perhaps also ask kung anong gagawin nila noon. Sabi mo, na-slide ako noon. Kasama ba ito sa full and final settlement dito? So those are the things to look out for. But even if you don't, your lawyer should also stop by those provisions and make sure na komportable ka sa sinasign up mo na agreement.
Ano ang basis ng mga magiging computation attorney? Ano ba usually nagiging basis sa final settlement? Because you said final settlement, hindi na pwedeng madagdagan yan. Kung na-chismis halimbawa, nabalita ako na mas malaki binigay kay August kaysa sa akin, hindi na ako pwedeng bumalik. Ano ang mga basis?
Yeah.
How do you come at the final settlement price? Ano mga factors that are how do you taken into consideration? Yes.
So first of all, una kakalkulin mo kung ano yung background, bakit itong tao na to papakawalan ng kumpanya. So if it's a genuine redundancy, talagang pasara na yung kumpanya or they're moving elsewhere, cheaper na area probably, and hindi nila madala lahat ng tao nila. So our focus is on redundancy calculation. So you look at, that's very easy. Merong calculators sa online, may government calculator. Your weekly salary times yung may length of service mo sa company, full length of service, years of service rather, yung edad mo, and kung magkano yung in-earn mo per week. So we do type it up and then we put it in the calculator and we look at it. Most of the time, para sabihin, kasi may mga rigmarole, I talk about rigmarole, bago dito sa UK, hindi mo lang pwedeng, and I hope so elsewhere, hindi mo lang pwedeng tanggalin yung mga tao. You have to show na you've gone through the process. So sometimes, sasabihin nila, we won't go through that process because we're gonna spend management time and we don't upset everyone. We want to keep a good image. So we're not going to go through the whole consultation process. We're just going to give you an ex gratia out of goodwill payment. So that is a bit of an art, kumbaga. The art of negotiation comes there. So what would be the best in the circumstance? Kung ano ba yung custom ng company. So that's something. That's kapag redundancy payment. In other cases, you would look at the possible claim ng taong yon. So sometimes the company would say, okay, may grievance ka. We really don't, we don't see eye to eye anymore. Wala na yung relationship. Untenable na yung relationship. And sometimes the company, whether explicitly, sasabihin nila, or not explicitly, na may claim tong taong to. So they would look at that claim. They would look at kung magkano yung makukuha nila if they go to employment tribunal, and that's the basis sometimes nung payment na yon. So those are things. So sometimes depende kung talagang it's the same as any case. Kung it's a potential claim, it's a potential grievance. It's simply a payout, a settlement sum. If it's a redundancy, then you look at the redundancy calculation. Payment in lieu of notice, titingnan mo yung, that's very simple. You look at the employment contract, titingnan mo kung ilan ang notice period. Untaken holiday, you just look at kung ilan yung untaken holiday. Also, make note kung may mga bonuses na outstanding, so wag pakawalan agad yung bonus. It's something to ask HR before you go, and kung may reimbursement ng expenses. So it's like cleaning it up before kayo mag-divorce ng employer nyo.
Ba, maganda to. August, no? Maski pa ano,
yes,
alam mo kung ano mga pwede mong kunin. Baka meron ka pang bonus na forthcoming. Meron ka pang mga holidays na hindi nakuha. Yan, babayaran sa iyo yun, no? Ito mga ito.
Kaya kailangan talaga, sir.
Yes.
Bago ka pirma ng kontrata, I think you have to read everything. Talaga.
Yun na sana tutumbukin ko. Itong pinag-uusapan natin at the end. Yung mga sa simula attorney na yun merong mga restrictions pala, no, na ganyan, let's say mga 6 na buwan, 10 buwan hindi ka pwede magtrabaho sa area na to o sa gantong klase siguro ng trabaho. Halimbawa doon sa example mo, lilipat sila. Doon sa provision doon hindi ka pwedeng maghanap ng trabaho na within the area. Kaso aalis na yung kumpanya. Parang okay lang yun, understood na yun, no? Na hindi ka nahahabulin.
What I would say there, chance yun Chance ko yun. If I'm the lawyer, hindi ko papahayaan yun to go unsaid na parang I'll take the risk na, ay, hindi naman siguro. What I would say is, sabihin ko sa kanya, paalis naman kayo. Pakitanggal na lang ng waiver. Wala naman sa inyo yan So it's clear. Na wala talaga. Makakatulog yung kliyente ng maayos na alam niya na baka bumalik ka after 6 months yung kumpanya na yun or after a year, and then they'll say, well, actually we're back again, hello. So I would take that as an opportunity because it seems like wala namang, my client would not be a bad leaver. So I have the bargaining position. Kumbaga, kayo nakipag-break sa client ko So, you have to give him as much employability as possible. So it is possible for lawyers to negotiate a way out of those non-compete clauses. At talagang, I'm very particular personally na if you come with me with a settlement agreement, I really need to see your employment contract.
May isa tayong question dito, attorney. Meron tayong kababayan nagwo-work sa isang agency. Ito yung sa carers, no, na nagbibigay ng mga alam mo na, mga caring assignments. Hindi nabigyan masyado siya ng caring assignment na feel nung kababayan natin na parang hindi ako masyadong binibigyan assignments. So napilitan siya maghanap ng ibang agency. Ngayon, tag dito, umihingi ngayon ng references. Kasi nababanggit mo kanina, 'di ba? Parang one of those pwedeng pag-usapan dun sa pag-alis mo, yung sa references, baka ayaw ka siguro bigyan ng references, hindi pa pwede 'yun, 'di ba? So, for example, in this case, Yeah, sorry. And in this case ba, pwede siyang ganun, ano ang situation ng kababayan natin? Dahil nung humihingi siya ng parang reference do sa empleyado, hindi daw siya nagbibigay, tinuturo yung pinaka-boss, yung may-ari. Yung may-ari naman, parang umiiwas. Pwede ba yun, attorney? Na hindi sila magbigay ng reference?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, yung reference is voluntary na binibigay. Hindi yon it's not a contractual obligation. And that's the reason why sometimes talagang ina-attach pa namin, sabihin namin, bigay ko ng reference. If there is no, what I would say, if there is no reason why they can't even confirm, all they need to do is to confirm the date of the date of employment from that day to that day, or yung confirm kung saan siya nag-agency, they should, what she could say is that, look, the fact na ayaw niya i-confirm, it's causing a negative inference sa akin. All you need to do is to confirm this. There is no reason why you shouldn't. However, hindi niya mako-compel. It's more of hanapin niya na lang talaga yung kilite, because most of the time nagbibigay, and that's the reason why we say don't burn bridges. Don't burn bridges kasi kailangan pa natin sila. If talagang masama ang ugali, then you could raise that point na bakit may negative inference. Bakit ayaw ibigay? What's stopping them? So baka merong rason. Baka meron rason sila why are they stopping? Because it's quite unusual. I'm not saying na may ginawa yung kababayan namin. It's a bit unusual kasi wala naman dito nagbibigay na ng flowery reference. It's very, very rare sa flowery reference. It's very easy to just confirm this person was employed from this date to this date. That's all they need to do.
Ang rason yata, attorney, dahil you are still with us. Para ganun. Nga, I'm still with you, pero hindi ka naman nagbibigay sa akin ng assignments eh. Every time nagbibigay ka, di ba? So, parang pinipigilan. Yeah. Yes?
That's gonna go back kung ano yung agreement nila. They're gonna have to go back because the reason why they're not giving reference is not because they don't want to. The reason is because they think she's breaching her agreement. So they're gonna have to talk it out.
Ayan, okay. All right. Well,
I think, sir, sana ang importante is kailangan you have to gracefully exit sa isang kumpanya pinagtrabahuhan mo para at least mabigyan ka na magandang reference. Kaya sa mga kababayan natin,
ang reason dito talaga, actually, parang nagbibigay kunyari assignments, pero wala namang biglang kunyari tatawagan, available ka ba sa ganito? O sabihin, yes, mamaya wala na. Ngayon, parang humihingi yata ng reference. Sabi ng babae, ayaw magbigay, so tinuturo niya yung pinaka-boss. Yung boss naman, na parang reason niya paano yan? Andito ka pa sa amin. Nga, andiyan nga ako sa inyo, pero hindi naman niyo ako binibigyan ng assignments. Ano gagawin ko? Pandemic, wala akong trabaho. Alam ka naman magtiyaga ako sa inyo. So, ganun.
If it's a non-exclusive contract, kung hindi naman siya exclusive contract, and she can raise that. Look, hindi naman exclusive yung contract sa inyo eh. So, if you want to make my contract exclusive, then you're gonna have to pay for it. And then I don't have to go and find another job. So it's about really pointing out. Dun nakukuha yung parang, that's when yung negotiation, we talked about negotiation a few weeks ago. So that's how you look at, okay, what do you need? What does this person need? What's your problem? Your problem is I'm going elsewhere. But then that's not really a problem kung hindi mo ako binibigyan ng trabaho. If you are afraid na pag andyan na yung trabaho, wala ko, then you have to give me exclusivity. You have to give me an exclusive contract, and that would have to be there. That would have to be set out there. But then equally, that would have to be reflected in the money. So that's how you put it. Okay, what really is your problem? Your problem is not about reference. Your problem is about exclusivity. And then the talk becomes exclusivity and not about reference. So that's really yung kakalokotin mo talaga kung ano yung problema.
Ayan. Okay. Well, thank you very much, attorney. Isa na namang informative Tuesday natin, no? August,
correct.
No? Ayan. Paano nga pala, kung gusto niyang kontakin, paano ka nila kukontakin, attorney? Ito yata yung mga numbers at saka, tama ba yung number niyo? Tama ba yan?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, it's d.quinto at dvsolicitors.com. Sa mga Breton o sa atin, d.quinto at dvsolicitors.com. Sorry, I got
Oh.
used to telling
Oh.
my name was Quinto. My direct dial is 01234-225-188. Direct dial ko po yun. Or the main phone number is 01234-860-504.
Hindi, kailangan malaman yung direct dial na number, no? Bago natin...
I know, direct
no?
dial because I'll go. I do pick it up.
Di ba, yung direct dial ang pinaka-importante, August eh. Anong number mo direct dial, attorney? 01234
255
255
225 po.
Sorry, 225
188.
mas madali yan. Mas madaling tandaan yan, no? Tama ba yan, August, no? Ayan, so, ayan ang number niya, 01234-225-188. Direkta ho yan. Direkta mismo kay Attorney Danna Quinto. Well, Attorney, thank you very much. Ha? We'll see you again next week, no? Baka meron ka mga gusto pang idagdag at batiin siguro. Go right ahead, please.
No, I just want to say thank you sa nakakataba ng puso, lahat na nanonood. So, to everyone, still keep safe and keep strong. Tough times ahead, but it's okay. We'll be all well. And yeah, see you next week. Bye.
May problema ka ba sa landlord mo? Baka i-evict ka na ni kuya. May problema sa mga kapitbahay, sa trabaho. O kaya naman kay mister o kay misis. Away tungkol sa mana, mga may utang, mga aksidente, daing o laban sa ospital or sa NHS. Harassment? O baka naman may stalker ka na gusto mong ireklamo. Punta na sa Divi Solicitors para matulungan ka pagdating sa mga litigations at iba pang mga legal concerns. Divi Solicitors at Mayfair House, 11 Lurk Street, Bedford, MK40 3HZ. Tumawag sa 01234-350-244 or 01234-225-188 o kaya naman mag-email sa d.quinto at dvsolicitors.com. Visit our website at www.dvsolicitors.com.